Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. I'm getting an update from Novo Resources, traded on the TSX under the symbol NVO and on the OTCQX under the symbol NSRPF. I am chatting with Mike Spreadborough, the executive co-chairman and acting CEO, as well as Quinton Hennigh, non-executive co-chairman over at Novo Resources. Now we're following up on a news release that came out today, June 21st. This is a pretty big news release for the company as they have reached an agreement with De Grey Mining to earn a 50% interest in the Egina JV. So this is on Novo's Becher gold project and some adjacent tenements. Now De Grey needs to invest $25 million Australian on exploration over the next 4 years with a minimum commitment of 7 million Australian spent within 18 months. De Grey is also going to invest in Novo, but let's just first start talking about this potential JV that will be formed after that $25 million is spent. Mike, give us a bit of an understanding here of how this deal came together, simply because I know a lot of people were looking at De Grey's property that's right beside this Becher gold project, their large resource. They saw some similarities. How did this deal come together here, Mike?
Yeah, so you're right on the target. De Grey's got an 11 million ounce project right next to our Becher project. We've always talked about the geology being very similar between their big Hennigh deposit within the Mallina gold project. And as we've put out results and we've seen the drilling, it's definitely caught the eye of a number of people in Australia, and particularly De Grey. They've seen the geology, and Quinton in a minute might be able to talk a bit more about that, but they've seen the geology, they like what they see what our team is doing, and they saw it as a good fit for them to grow their project. So they're very keen to find additional ore sources or possible ore sources to go into their processing plant that they aim to develop. So it was a very much a natural fit between all of us. I think it's very, very exciting for the shareholders of Novo because 25 million is a very large number of exploration expenditure. It allows us to have a party to share the risk, and I think it's a good deal for Novo going forwards.
So Quinton, let's talk about geology then, because I believe Novo's drilled about 50,000 meters of air core drilling. From my understanding, really getting an understanding of what's beneath kind of that surface cover. And that was clearly enough to bring De Grey into this. So in terms of geology and the relationship to the Mallina gold project, what are the similarities here?
Yeah, look, the Becher project is basically a mirror image in many respects geologically to the Hennigh area. If you look at Hennigh, it sits immediately to the west and northwest of a large granite intrusion that was placed in this Mallina sequence. It's basically a package of rocks that was squished up, after it was deposited, and it forms what we call a pressure shadow. There's basically an area where strain was deflected around that granite intrusion, and it forms a zone that's conducive, we'll say, for large-scale fluid movement to come up, including intrusive activity that form these gold deposits. Okay, so we see the same kind of strain shadow on the east side or the northeast side of our Becher project. There's another granite over there, which is very similar in scale and overall size to the one at Hennigh. We have a similar pressure shadow, and then the structures that we have project immediately towards the Hennigh area. So we feel that we're on the same kind of prospective conduit that would allow the same type of intrusives as well as the same kind of ore forming processes of fluids that come up and form similar deposits to those at Hennigh.
So for De Grey to build up their almost 12 million ounces of gold, do you know approximately how much they spent in terms of comparing this 25 million that they're going to spend probably over the next 4 years? How much could that get them in terms of building a resource here?
Well, Corey, yeah, it's a bit unknown given that our exploration is early days. But as you look through the history of De Grey in some of their early drilling, they were drilling some of the what is now known as good open pitable material. They were at the same stage, and it took them about 2 years to drill out those resources. In this case, it'll be a little bit more concentrated. So I would be hopeful that by the end of this $25 million expenditure that we're well and truly down the path of a resource. And that's what's exciting about this project is we're doing a 50-50 joint venture with De Grey's. So that allows all of Novo's shareholders to share in the success going forwards, because we haven't given away all of the project. We've sold 50% for a huge valuation, but we've kept a lot of upside for our shareholders as a resource might be developed or you go into production. So I think it's a very good deal for everyone.
Okay, so then just in terms of management of this money, obviously De Grey will manage their exploration expenditures, these 25 million. And then once this JV is formed, they also become the manager of this Egina JV. So what does that leave on the plate for you then, Mike? What does Novo have to do in terms of advancing this JV, or even outside of it, where can you then focus?
Yeah, I think the first thing, it was important for us to allow De Grey to be the managers. They've been in that district now for 4 years. They've built up a wealth of knowledge of that area. So they will be able to fast track any discovery at Becher. So that's important for us. You know, Novo is still in a good position. We've got many areas and targets within the Pilbara, so we will now shift our focus for those. We aim to go drilling in Nunnery sometime in Q3 once we can get access into that area. We're still excited about drilling some of the priority targets that we have at Mosquito Creek Basin. And there's an area on kind of the coastal area of our Pilbara zone called Balla Balla that we just haven't had the opportunity to get in there. It's very prospective. It's up against what's called the Shoal Shear. So we're going to task our team that's been working on Becher to start working on that. And they've had great success at Becher. It's a good credit to them. So we'll give them a new opportunity to see if they can make a similar discovery. And we mustn't forget our Belltopper project that we'll do some drilling in Q4 of this year. And if you recall, Belltopper's not that far away from the Fosterville mine, very big gold mine in Australia. So there's still lots and lots of things for Novo to do, and that will definitely keep us busy for the rest of the year.
So, Mike, do you foresee Novo trying to bring in other partners on some of these other projects as you further advance them, or do you think the strategy is to keep some of these 100% owned?
Yeah, look, I'll get Quinton also jumping. We're very clear when we sit around the board at Novo to make the right decisions based on what we see. So in the Becher case, we're seeing a big system. We think De Grey will bring a better value to our shareholders developing that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we would do that in all the cases. We are really agnostic. We'll look for the best opportunity for shareholders.
Quinton, do you want to weigh in on kind of the corporate strategy as well here? Because the company Novo Resources does hold such a large land package in Western Australia.
Yeah, we do, Corey. It's Western Australia, but we also, like Mike said, we have projects like Belltopper in Victoria. And I see this as an opportunity to allow us to focus on some other targets that we think are of high value that could generate a lot of return. Look, De Grey, they've been operating in this area for, I think 4 or 5 years now. They've been very successful at making discovery. They, appear to have elements of secret sauce, we'll call it, that allow them to identify targets and hit things on a higher probability. That's great. You want smart people exploring your ground. And this is a case of that where we have what is the most skilled team in this region tackling this ground. We keep 50%. That's great. That's good for our shareholders, but it allows us to go out and look at where we can apply our skills, our team skills, our capital and so forth towards some other targets that we have. And I think we do have some high quality opportunities. We've got ground in the Pilbara, like you said. We've got about 10,000 square kilometers. It does have very high quality targets, like Nunnery. I think Nunnery North is a very, very high quality target that has yet to ever see a drill hole in it. It could be that it turns out to be a major discovery in its own right. But we also have areas like Belltopper. This is the high grade, somewhat Fosterville look-alike. It's about 50 kilometers due south of Fosterville in the same part, the Victorian goldfields. and it's along the same structure. So I see value in chasing those kind of things where we can add a lot of exploration value with our remaining resources and team and capital and so forth.
All right. So as part of this news release, on top of that earn-in for the JV, De Grey is also investing $10 million Australian into Novo. That's going to bring them to approximately an 11.6% post-financing undiluted interest. They also become the largest shareholder in Novo Resources. Mike, in terms of bringing this money in, what is the budget then for this year to go out and explore all these other projects?
Yeah, so, De Grey coming in at the Novo level just shows how they're very supportive of that planned work for the rest of this year that Quinton talked about. So we still aim to have one drill rig operating from August all the way through to December, both the Nunnery, Mosquito Creek Basin, and also Belltopper. So people will see Newsflow and our expenditure reflecting that one drill rig all the way through the rest of the year. So definitely the De Grey funds will allow us to keep that aggressive exploration program that Quinton talked about going. And it's really good that they've come in and supporting our exploration team going forwards.
Now, is there any work together that you guys are going to do with some of the De Grey geologists as well to further advance any of the exploration outside of the Becher project, or are they mostly just going to be focused on the Becher project for at least near-term exploration?
Yeah, definitely near term. The two teams will definitely work together. They're already in that phase of transition, sharing knowledge that both of them sees. Depending on how our work goes in Balla and other areas, there might be other opportunities to work with De Grey. But it is an exciting period for us, and it does really transform Novo.
Okay, then there is also Novo is planning on listing on the ASX, the Australian exchange. Mike, what's the corporate strategy around this? Do you think you could bring in some more investors, especially with this new relationship with De Grey?
Definitely. The Australian community is very knowledgeable with De Grey. They understand the Pilbara. It's a bit closer to our home and our assets. The Australian Stock Exchange is performing a little bit better than the TSX in terms of gold stocks. So we see it's an opportunity going forwards for us to be on that exchange, and it gives us an opportunity to tap into a whole range of investors who've definitely been part of the De Grey story, and they'll also, I think, enjoy being part of the Novo story.
So then, Quinton, when you work with a number of different exploration companies, especially with some of your relationship with Crescat as well, how do you fit Novo into kind of an investment strategy for yourself, but also how do you think other investors should look at Novo now that it seemed like the highest priority project, this Becher project, is now under earning, where a different company is going to be spending the money, and Novo's now, in a way, pivoting to a number of other projects to get a handle on what's possible there?
Yeah, I see this as a moment where we're going back to becoming an explorer. I'm actually quite pleased to be able to say we can pursue these other things like what I talked about, Nunnery North, immediate target that we can drill, Belltopper down in Victoria State, but we're looking at other opportunities as well. So I really see this as a pivot towards the exploration side of the business once again. And I think that we have one of the best teams in Australia to undertake this. So I actually see it as a kind of a restart in that regard. You know, the experience that we had mining Beaton's Creek, it was challenging. We learned a lot, but it was also very, very challenging on the financial side, operational side, trying to keep people in a very, very tight labor market and stuff. We had a lot of challenges. We're now an explorer. We can be lean, mean, and focus on creating value through discovery.
So then, Mike, I guess wrap us up with Newsflow. What should investors expect out of Novo? What do you think could move the needle to bring in more investors, to move the share price higher in terms of catalysts in the near term?
Yeah, definitely in the near term, people will see an update on Nunnery North, as Quinton's talked about. We've already cleared the heritage survey for access. We're busy looking at how we can get road access, and we do hope to be going drilling in August, so people should look out for that. and that'll be followed very quickly with either drilling in Belltop or Mosquito Creek Basin. So people should keep an eye on those Newsflow. And as we get into Balla Balla, we already talked today with the exploration team about that program, and we'll keep everyone up to date as we get in and do the reconnaissance exploration. So it's still quite exciting going forwards. And obviously, we're not removed from Becher as De Grey go in and explore in Becher as they see results come through. We'll share in that information, and that'll get distributed and reported as we do with any results that we've been reporting for Becher. So Becher doesn't get explored in a vacuum. It will be very much part of Nova shareholders' journey.
Okay. Guys, I think this takes us through this news release. I will post a link to the news release below this interview. And if anybody has any follow-up questions, please email me and I will get the team over at Novo to address those questions. In full disclosure, I am a shareholder of Novo Resources, so I'll follow along as more news comes out, and now kind of the refocus back on some true exploration on a handful of the other projects that the company holds. So Mike, Quinton, thank you guys for your time. I do appreciate this update, and let's follow up on the back of some more news out of the company.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.